Hello, I'm live again. Again, I'm live. How about that? Hello, friends, and welcome back to my series on adoption. I'm excited to keep going with this series, and I really do appreciate all the comments and um, email that this has generated. I'm very excited to have met a couple people by now that are interested in the story and have wanted some direction for themselves about finding their adoptive family. And it is quite a journey, isn't it? Whoops, sorry. I was just trying to get on board with being able to see my chat just in case we have any chatters that come in. I do record all of these live, and the reason for that is because I am old and dumb. I I was trying to record this video series as like a video and then upload it to YouTube, but for whatever reason that is, it seems to take hours to upload even just a 30-minute video. And I don't know if that's normal for YouTube these days or what the deal is, but every time I try it, it takes forever and sometimes it doesn't work at all. So I'm going to keep to doing live, and that seems to be working so far anyway. So thank you again for the comments, and I have had a lot of fun with these series. It's been very therapeutic for me. I don't know about anyone else, but it really has made me think of things in a lot different light. And especially today's episode, because today we are going to talk about what happened next. We talked about finding my biological mother in a previous episode, and how that worked out for me, and how I was finally successful at doing that. And then I told a little story about how I was on the phone with a biological aunt, and she started to talk about names of people in the family, and I wasn't keeping up with who was who. It was really overwhelming at first to hear the names of all of the people who were like aunts and uncles and cousins. And of course, I hadn't gotten anywhere with any of that yet. And she mentioned the name of two people. And I am going to continue to promise not to use real names in these videos for privacy. And she said the names of two people. And I said, who are they? And she said, well, you have a brother and a sister. And I was so excited. So today, even though my biological, he would be a half brother, um, even though he is the older of my two siblings, I'm not going to talk about him yet because I still have a ton of work to do there. I know his name. I know approximately where he lives. I know that he is kind of aware of the situation at hand, but I've not met him, and that's going to be a big part of my next couple steps in this journey, is getting to know my biological brother if I can. So I'm not going to talk a whole lot about him today, but let's move on to the biological sister and how that has worked out. Just I want to talk about some things that I have worked out as far as timeline and the way that they work out in my own brain, that bring even more questions into the picture, of course, and then just a little bit about that, how I feel. So let's do that. Let's talk about that. I'm really excited. This is the episode that I've looked forward to the most, because all throughout my adult life, whenever I talk to someone about finding my biological family as an adopted child, people would ask me, well, don't you hope to meet your biological mother? Don't you hope to meet your biological father? And to be completely 100% honest, I always answered that question with yes, but I would be even more interested to find out if I have biological siblings out there or half siblings. And it was almost as if somewhere in my heart, I knew that I did. I knew they were out there. And that is something that absolutely, I definitely, without a doubt, wanted to have that happen. It would have been even more heartbreaking to me to find out that I had a biological sibling, um, and never got the chance to meet them. I'm okay with the fact that my biological mother passed away. She passed away back in 2006, and I missed her by kind of a long shot, I guess. Not terribly long, but long enough that I've missed her. She's been deceased and gone for several years now. Had that been a sibling, I think I would have been more devastated. I don't know why that is, but I think that's definitely true. So let's talk about biological siblings for a second. And this is something that really blows me away. This is my situation, and I don't know. I'm sure it can be very different for other people, but here's my story. So my biological mother had me when she was about 20 years old. So she had not very long left home and was going on. If I understand everything correctly, she's gone on to college. She had a boyfriend from high school, and she had moved around the area, the state. I believe she stayed pretty close to in-state or just outside of state. There are a couple of people that I have heard names of that she may have been associated with, friends with, boyfriends, and things like that. So far, none of that has checked out. And to be honest, I'm really not into looking for biological father information at this time, simply because I'm really still overwhelmed with my maternal side, and I have so many questions in that area still first that I just have not moved on. I haven't moved on, and I may or I may not at some point. I'm happy with what I've found out so far, and I have a couple other thoughts about that, and I'll probably make that a video all of its own someday as well. So BioMom had me when she was 20, and then it wasn't until several years later, actually, that she had more children. She got married to another guy, and so many questions, right? And I think that's okay. I'm still figuring some of this out. I'm assuming that she got married. I think I've heard that she got married, although I cannot find any. You know me, I'm the big sleuth, and I'm always looking for people's marriage certificates and things like that. Haven't found one for this guy and my biological mother. But I'm assuming by word of mouth that it's out there, because I've heard reports from other family members that she did get married to this other man later on in life, and she was a bit older by then. It was almost 20 years later that she actually was married and gave birth to my biological brother. He's 20 years younger than I am. So that's kind of odd, isn't it? When I think about that, both of my biological half siblings are young enough, or I'm old enough, I guess, that I could be their mother instead of a sibling. And that just kind of blows my mind a little bit. It really does. I also think about a lot of things. Here's a big thing that I think about. So if she gave birth when she was 20 years old, and then she didn't have any other children, what did she do from the ages of 20 to 40? I mean, that's kind of a long time. And I hear a lot of stories, but I know that she was involved as an aunt to some of her nieces and nephews. And I know that she worked a lot. And I know that she was a journalist. And she was a writer. She was an activist. She had a lot to do with some politics and things. She's a big activist over in the Boise area, actually, and worked with civil rights issues and some interesting things like that. I hope to learn a whole lot more, because 20 years of her life, of her young adult life, were spent doing these kinds of things. That's a long time, and I want to hear so much more about that. But that's to be determined. I'm still working on it. I'm particularly have reached out to a place that would have been her employer at the time, and also a couple of other news articles and things in the area, places that she was involved in the building of, like a park, and some other things like that. So it's really cool information. It just feels like a long time to me to be a young adult and have all of these things going on. She didn't just party all the time. I know that she did a lot of really important and cool things, and I want to learn more about what those were. But in any case, she did eventually get married, settle down, and she did have a son, my half brother. And that happened at she was 40. Okay. And her husband was actually a little bit younger. He was 37 at the time. So as far as that age, having children nowadays, I feel very much like nowadays that is not terribly uncommon. Mothers are having children older in life all the time now, although in this area it's a lot more uncommon than it was back then, if that makes any sense. But here's something that I think of a lot is like her husband must have assumed that at the ripe age of 40 years old, that she was having her first child, my brother. But he was not her first, he was technically her second baby, right? And so I think about that, and working in the medical field as I do, I know how many questions there are. In fact, at that very same time, I would have been working as a young nurse at that very same time. I would have been asking these questions. I could have been the nurse that helped deliver my young biological brother and sister and never known. Had we lived in the same place, wouldn't that be crazy? Because that's about the time frame that I was doing some of those kinds of things. So it just blows my mind. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that there's a good chance that her doctor would have known, okay, because women change, their bodies change after they have a child. I'm pretty sure that maybe there were signs that this was not her first birth. Okay, would have been her second. And there's questions, like I say, there's questions about this. Have you ever given birth before? Have you had a stillbirth, a miscarriage, or whatever? And it's crossed my mind that maybe I'm not the only one. Maybe I'm not. I don't know. I don't know these things for sure. So, at any rate, how did that happen? You know, that she went on to have this child, this little boy, that was my biological half brother, and nobody knew. They just assumed or whatever that this is her first baby, and it makes me very happy for him actually that he has lived his whole life thinking he's the oldest, the firstborn son of my biological mother, and I think about how that must make him feel to find out that that he has a big sister. And boy, what a shock that would be, and how interesting that would be. And I can't wait to meet him. And like I say, I'll do an episode about him later on. So that child, my biological brother, was about 3 years old, and at the ripe age of 43, my biological mother got pregnant again, and she had a baby. By this time she was 43 and her husband was 40, and she had a 3-year-old baby, you know, toddler at home. And that second, actually third baby of hers is my biological half sister. And I'm going to have to think of a name for her to call her over the video, because I don't want to use her real name. I think we're going to say Kat. We're going to say Kat because that's a nickname that I love. I love that. And she was born in August of 1995. When I start to really write out the timeline, that's something I'll suggest. When you're working over these facts in your head, draw a timeline, take a piece of graph paper and graph it out and put events on a timeline, because it really helps your brain to understand. And it really also helps my brain if I put myself in the shoes of that timeline. And this is what I did when I was 20 and 30 and 40. And when this happened, I was actually, so like I say, it was 1995 when my sister was born, and I was working. I was a young stepmother, actually had stepkids, and I was married, and I had a full-time 2 jobs. Actually, I was working a lot at the time, and I was working hospice, and I was working in a hospital, and I had just graduated nursing school, and there were a lot of things that were going on in that time frame of August of 1995. My sister was born, and I would have been 22, right? 22-ish. Now my math brain has completely shut down. But yeah, I am more of the age of a mother than a sister to these 2 younger siblings that I have, which is very interesting to me because I actually had the stepkids at that time that were the same age or even just a little bit older than them. So that is enough to blow my mind itself. And sometimes I just kind of in my meditation, I've done a lot of meditation on this and trying to go back in time and think of what was going on in that year and how old I was at that time and how old my biological mother was at that time and where they were living and what was going on and what was, versus what was going on in my life. And I still do a lot of work on that. Actually, I just think about it a lot and I write things down. I think I showed that one journal before where I just write down my thoughts and I'm like, in this year at this time, I was this age and I was doing this. And actually my mother was over here doing that. And my sister was born and my brother was born and I didn't even know it. And it just really blows my mind. The important thing about that is not to dwell too much on things. I've learned that I can get very carried away in dwelling on things in the past that I couldn't control. I had no idea. And that goes along very well with what I'm about to tell you next. So unfortunately, and I don't want to overshare because this is not my journey. It has much more to do with my half sister. Unfortunately, what happened next is that biological mother became very, very sick. And she was only 52, 53 years of age, and my siblings were only about 10 years old. My sister was about 10. My half brother was about 13. Either way, they were both very young kids, and biological mother, from what I understand so far, she had cancer and got treated quite aggressively. Nothing worked. And I still am not extremely clear on what kind. That's something else I would like to learn. Unfortunately, medical records are medical records, and you really can't access them as a person that doesn't have any right to, even if the person is deceased, right? I would have a hard time being able to figure that out. And being in the medical profession as I am, that's what I want to get my hands on the most is actual medical records, because that would tell me so much in my language that I wish to know. But I can't, so I won't. And there's that. But anyway, yeah, biological mother passed away in January of 2006, and she was only 53 years old. Her husband was about 50. Maybe I'm doing my math just a little bit wrong. He might have been a little bit younger than that. I know that her husband was a bit younger than she was. My sister was only 10. She was only 10 years old. So now we are talking about biological mother. To me and to my sister, I didn't know her at all, and my younger sister didn't know her other than as mom, and she was only 10 years old when she passed. So rightfully, she has nearly as many questions as I do about our mother and the kind of person that she was and what she did in life. And so this is actually a bit of a shared journey that we're on, and I get super excited to share things with her. when I find them out. And the first time that I was able to meet my biological sister, I actually went to the area, and the sister and I got to meet. I talked a little bit about that last week. And we actually went to our our biological mother's grave site. And that was kind of special because she would have been 70. We went on her 70th birthday to the cemetery. And I took some really cheesy flowers, but they turned out to be good. It was actually her favorite flower. Even though they were silk, it was one of those kind of silk cemetery arrangements that you can leave and not worry about leaving something that's going to wilt and die and make a mess and stuff like that. So it was kind of a nice thing for us to be able to do as siblings, and it was a special day to kind of reflect and remember that. Now, I'm not big on visiting cemeteries. I have a lot of personal beliefs. I don't believe that people linger in the cemetery. I didn't feel her presence there, and I didn't expect to, right? Um, but anyway, let's continue to talk about sister. Um, so sister was, she lost her mother. She was 10 years old, and she continued to live at home with her big brother, who was just 13, and her dad. Um, and what happened next? It just boggles my mind. It blows me away. I cannot believe this happened. Her dad passed away. She was 13, and so suddenly, at the age of 13, she was orphaned. Having lost both her mom and her dad at such a young age, I used to take a lot of pride in that. I thought I was pretty bad. I thought I was pretty badass because I was on my own at 18 and had lost my adoptive dad, and I was out on my own and doing school and work and everything, and I was so cool, had an apartment, a car, and everything, and I was doing everything on my own at the age of 18. And come to find out, my younger sister was facing that at a much younger age than I was. She did go to other family members for a while. Of course, being I would still consider like 13 years old to be like that tween age when you're not even quite a teenager yet, and still such a child, and still suffering the loss of her mother and everything else that had happened with her and the living arrangement and everything that I understand. I have beat myself to death over this whole situation, because this whole situation actually happened in 2009. And in 2009, I myself had a 10-year-old son, and my little sister would have been 13. And my half brother would have been about 16 or 17. And I have beat myself to death a million times just thinking and thinking and thinking, had I only known that she was orphaned at 13, of course I would have done anything I could do to take care of her. Who's to say I wouldn't have run directly to where they lived to take care of those kids? I know them now to be my half siblings, but at the time, I really have beat myself up over that. But again, it kind of goes back to having to let go of the things that you didn't know. All right. And sister and I have had a little bit of a talk about that. Not a lot. We talk about it a little bit. But I think I've even told her that I'm so sorry. And that if I had known what she was going through at the time, and if I had known she was there and what she was going through and everything, of course, in my heart, I know then I would have gone straight to her and taken her in with me and my kids, and I would have wanted to raise her, But here's the thing about that is that what I've come to know about my half sister is that she is a little lioness, man. She is a Leo. She's a late season Leo, and she has got just all the attributes. She is a hunter. She is a provider. She is everything to her own son, and she provides for herself and her baby and her now fiance. And oh man, she is just amazing. Um, but I worry that here's the thing. She may not ever have wanted to see me as a mother figure. And maybe that's what I would have wanted at the time. She didn't need a mom. She had a mom. It was tragic what happened to her mom and her parents and everything. Um, Same for my husband. She wouldn't have ever seen my husband as a like a replacement dad or anything like that. And I wouldn't have wanted her to. The dynamic of all of that could have been not very good. Just knowing the age that she was at, knowing how hard I was still working at the time, knowing everything about what was then and what is now, I may not have made a very good mother figure to her, and I tend to think that's more of a possibility. Parenting was not one of my finer skill sets. We'll put it that way. Okay. And I'm just being honest and truthful. I have a son. I have struggled through every step of parenting with him my whole life. It is something I think that comes more naturally and more successfully to other people. Other people have to really, really, really work at it. I don't know that I would have been successful being a parent figure to my sister or my brother. So maybe everything worked out for a reason, that way, for a reason, right? Oh boy, that's something really deep to think about. But I think I've talked to her about that too. I would have wanted to be her mother, but I may not have been a very good one. And who knows where she would have landed after that. And so I'm very, very, very grateful for the people that have been in her life who have helped her. But I'm mostly proud of her because I feel like she has done a lot of everything she has done so far in life on her own. And I couldn't be more terrified and proud of her at the same time, if that makes sense. It just scares me to this day. Some of the things that she must have had to go through in life to get where she is now on her own, practically from such a young age. And I know she went to live with family members, but that didn't last forever. And she came back to Idaho, still very young, still very unsupported. And oh, what a time that had to have been. And I wasn't there for any of it. And that maybe that's for the best as well, because I think it probably would have caused me palpitations and an early heart attack had I known everything that she was going through at that time. It would have been very, very difficult. And so anyway, I wanted to share just one more silly thing about my sister. And if you are at all familiar about my channel going way back in time, it's true. I am kind of a silly hippie lady. I'm a hippie chick. I am into tarot cards. I am a tarot deck creator. I've created decks. I've created a lot of tarot art and things like that. I read cards for a living on the side, and I'm a little bit different, different taste of some people. I do have a story that I will share. Of course, it's for some people and maybe not for others. Maybe other people will say, oh, that's weird, but it's okay. I'm okay with that. The day that my biological aunt, my mother's sister, told me, you have a sister and you have a brother, everything else just kind of faded into the background for a moment, and I was so happy and I was so excited to finally be able to say I have a sister and I have a brother. And especially for some reason, and I'll never be able to explain away any of this, except for I think it just needed to happen this way. I was so excited about this sister, and I needed to know more about her and where she was and what she was doing. And Aunt helped me as best she could. She wasn't able to give me all the answers. And so I slept on it, and I didn't sleep very well. Of course, I laid awake all night thinking about it and wondering where's my sister and what is she doing. And it just got to me. My anxiety level, I kept feeling it go up and up and up. And it wasn't scary anxiety. It was like anticipation, happy anxiety, as well as a little bit nervous at the same time, if that makes sense. And so what I did the next day is I did some initial searching with my engines, and it wasn't getting me anywhere at all. I was having no luck. I was really frustrated, and I know I was typing fast, and I was just really in a state that searching wasn't a very successful effort, mostly because of my anxiety. And I was so excited. I just needed to find this out now. And so I did. I turned to my tarot cards. It's a true story. I'm happy to share with anybody that wants to know. I took my tarot cards to the coffee table, and I sat down and I made myself a cup of coffee, and I sat down at the table. And sometimes when I read tarot, I do things like lighting candles and setting out crystals, and I have kind of a ritual and laying out the cloth and things like that. I did none of that this day. I sat at my kitchen table, and I actually moved around, and I moved out 2 chairs. And in my head and even out loud, I set two spaces for my biological mother and for my biological grandmother. By now I had names of both of them. I sat down at the table with my deck of cards, and I just took a couple of really deep breaths, and I addressed each of the chairs. I invited the energy or the spirit or whatever you want to call it of my biological mother and my grandmother to the table. And I said, in the biggest, loudest voice I've ever heard myself say, "Where's my sister?" And I just asked that of the universe and whoever else was listening right then and there. And I remember feeling just a wave of kind of relaxation, and as if God or the universe or whatever power you want to call it, everybody calls it or thinks of it something different, was there for me and was going to answer my questions for me. And I did use my cards, and one of the first cards that came up was the card that is called the Empress. If you're not familiar with tarot, the Empress is a card that is a woman's figure, and she's beautiful. She's sitting on a chair in a beautiful garden, and she's got some things around her, and she has a crown of the stars, and the stars represent all the signs of the zodiac, and she's very beautiful, and she's very matronly. And in most tarot cards, she appears as a pregnant woman. And that card did not surprise me at all. And I had zero doubt and no questions in my mind about that. We'll come back to that in a second. But then I continued to lay out some more cards. I looked this morning. I was trying to find the journal that I kept at the time, because I know that I kept a journal page about that that day and the cards that came up and what they meant to me. But the most important ones I can remember are the Empress. And then also I had some cards laid out that came with a message about a letter. And the letter card can represent a letter like you would get in the mail, a physical letter in an envelope. But in today's society and actions, it can actually represent some other kind of message, like a text or an email or something like that. And I also got a rune that was for communication, and that all led me, the whole entire message. It was very peaceful. It was very comforting, and it led me to the message that I would be able to contact her if I looked for a way to mail or email her, which is what I did next, exactly next. And I found her email address within less than 30 seconds. I found it exactly where I needed to. And I reached out to her by email, and I was very lucky that she responded to me pretty quickly. And um, she was shocked. She was surprised. Uh, and she was a little apprehensive at first, just like everyone else, and was kind of like, is this a scam? And I think she talked to some friends about it. And she's like, what do you think about this? Is it a scam? And they kind of thought about it, talked about it amongst themselves, and decided, no, this person knows way too much. So she was open to talking to me, and we talked many times after that until we were actually able to meet up. One of the first things that my little baby sister told me was that she was pregnant. And so that brings me back to how everything happens for a reason, and when it should and how it should. And I was able to meet her. I wasn't able to meet her in person while she was pregnant or when she had the baby, but I was there from a distance. I had some other things going on, bad things going on in my life at the time. But I hope that I was able to support her, at least distantly, online, messaging, texting, um, sending pictures and things like that. And I was able to send some things for my new baby nephew that I hope they helped. Um, Financially, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I may not have been able to do that because I was so busy working and taking care of my own family. I don't know that I would have been able to do that. I would have wanted to, but you know how it is when you're young and you have kids and you're struggling and you're being a parent, and it's hard. But for some reason, for whatever reason it is, the universe has put me in a place. It just so happened that at the time that I met my sister and found out everything I needed to about her, that I was able to help, and I was able to be a support, and maybe that's what she needed most, right? Was that kind of person. I'm shuffling some cards. I thought maybe we would draw a card today. So I'm super, super excited. My story is not over with meeting my sister. I did meet her on our mother's birthday, like I said, and that was just last May. So it's been almost 10 months. Oh gosh, it's almost been a year since I've seen her, and I really, really hope to again. It's been a very, very long, cold winter. I may not have been able to get out of the area if I could, to go and visit her. She is also a very, very busy young single mom, was, and working hard. She works, man. She works very hard, and she is amazing, and she is adorable. It makes me wonder a few things, like our biological fathers were different. We're going with that for now. I'm quite sure that we don't have the same biological father, but I wonder what the difference is. She's much shorter. I think she's shorter than me. I used to be about 5'10", but not anymore. I'm down to about 5'8". She's shorter than me by about 6 inches, I believe. I bet she's about, maybe she's 5'2", 5'3". Maybe that's my guess. I call her fun sized because she's adorable. She's so pretty. She's got beautiful, beautiful, beautiful hair, and she's got some really awesome tattoos, and she's just a little spunky thing, and she's so amazing. And she's artistic and she loves gardening. She's so talented and she loves animals, especially cats, and she loves photography, and she's got this beautiful baby boy and she takes such wonderful care of him in addition to working so hard and everything else. And I just see her and she makes me so happy. But I know that I know what it's like. She's very busy right now. So I'm patiently waiting for a time when we can chat more and have time and spend time. I know that's going to happen, you know, later. I think we have all the time in the world now. I hope we do. Um, to get to know each other and figure out exactly who we want to be in each other's life. We haven't had many big conversations about that, but there's time. Um, I want to help her learn the biological family in many ways. I want to help her learn it at the same time as I do. Because like I say, we've still got a lot of stories unanswered that neither one of us knows, because I never knew them at all and she only knew them until she was 10, 11, 12 years old. So we both have a lot of unanswered questions. We both have a lot to learn, and I think that this is kind of a journey that we can take together, which makes me feel so much better because I'm not alone on this journey. I have a sibling. I have a sister. When I met my sister, I arrived at the hotel over in the Boise area, and we had agreed to meet up at the hotel instead of like her home or out in public somewhere, because it's weird. You can't ever be too safe these days, and you're never sure who you're meeting and where and things like that. Anyway, we met up at a hotel. She came to see me, and I remember waiting for her, and she was on her way in her car with her baby. And the whole time I was extremely nervous. And I just kept, even out loud, once in a while, I would say, I have a sister. And just how much joy that brings me, just even being able to say that, and that I found her, and I was finally getting to meet her, and we did have fun. We had fun that day. I didn't spend a long time in Boise. I actually, the whole day was very incredibly enjoyable. But by the end of the day, I was mentally and physically just exhausted from all of it. It was such a huge experience for me and such a big deal that I was literally exhausted from that. I meant to stay maybe a little longer than I did, but I'm a runner. When I get overwhelmed, I run. I run far away. And that's what I did that day. But you know what? It's okay. We're going to have times that we can get together again, and do things. I had hoped that it would happen by now, but we're still getting snow. And she's been a very busy girl, and we are making plans to get together soon. So I can't wait. I can't wait. It's going to be great. And there's going to be many more stories to come. And of course, I am hoping that sometime in the very near future that maybe she and I can go together and find brother, because I would like to meet him as well. Get him in on this too. Pretty exciting. So that's my story. Thank you for listening to it. I'll send today. This is a sample, right? A deck of my cards. And so I'll draw a card for us. We're done with this today. So wait for it. This is the card that just says wait for it. My deck is called The Universe Says. And it's just a little deck of cards that, like if the universe was giving you advice. This tells me that there's something even more exciting to come, which is just very, very exciting. Here's another one. This connection is no coincidence. I believe that, and I so excited. Should we do 3? This is a happy time. Yes, it is. Very happy to have met my biologicals, and so there'll be more stories about them in the future. My adoption series playlist will continue. I can't say for sure when I will do another video. I'm going to continue to do some thinking. I have so many other people that I want to talk about and so many other experiences. However, uh, this is the time. Now is my time. Like I said, I've been waiting for the roads to clear and for the weather to get nicer so I can go over to the Boise area, which is about 6 hours from where I live, and get to know some of these people. I don't know how long I'm going to stay. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I have aunts, uncles, cousins, my brother, so many people that I want to meet. I have places I would like to go to do some more research, and a park I'd like to get to see. There's apparently her name is on a plaque somewhere for the work that she did in the this park that she created for something. I oh, see. I still don't know. I still don't know all these details. But it's a learning and it's a growing process, and I'm so excited to go on it. I cannot wait to learn even more about my siblings and my biologicals, and find out what those relationships are going to be. And I've said it before, but every relationship is what you make it, and it takes two people to decide what that relationship is going to be and how much you're going to put into it, how much effort, how much time, and things like that. Hopefully, I think I do have some biologicals out there that are excited about this with me and are going to at least spend a little time with me on this journey, and we'll see where that goes. But it's all good so far. It's all good, and it can't get any better than this. I'm very excited. So that's my story for this week. It's we've gone a little bit over my half hour, my lunch and learn time that was planned. So thanks for sticking with me. I appreciate you. Please do keep those questions and comments coming in. Send me emails, send me messages, whatever you want. I'm glad to get back with you and help you on your own journey if that's what you're doing. And have a great, happy, and healthy weekend. See you again soon. Bye-bye.